thing you have to consider is that the higher that rate goes, the more in risk you are. Finally, you can't claim capital cost on that property. If you claim any capital cost allowances, you lose your entire principal residence exemption. All right. So now I want to talk about change in use. So this is going to get a little bit more wordy, but basically change in use is in your diagrams, in the two diagrams here. First change in use is if it goes from your principal residence to a rental property. So this can be a full or partial change in use. So if, for example, you can say, I just want to change my basement and keep the rest as my principal, or the whole, I'm moving out and the whole place is becoming my rental property. Key part is that the principal residence exemption will shelter that change in use, and there'll be capital gains and loss after that change in use. Because at that point, it becomes a rental property. So from the government's perspective, it's an investment at that point. So from that point in time that you change the use until the day you sell it, that difference will be capital gains. So the next example is it the other way around. You can have a change in use where you go from a rental property back to your principal residence. When that happens, capital gains would be applied from the time that it was a rental property to the point that it became your principal residence again. So here's the part where you might be thinking, how can they do this? And the reason is that there's a clause in the Income Tax Act called deemed disposition or acquisition, which basically says that whenever there's a change in use, even if you actually did not get rid of the property, the CRA will consider you. So in the example of going from a principal residence to rental, the CRA will consider that you've actually sold that property at fair market value at that date and bought it back at fair market value. So that's why they call it deemed disposition, because even if you didn't sell your property, the CRA will still hold you liable for that change in use. And the CRA will assess capital gains from that point based on the fair market value accordingly. So this is one area that some people don't realize the implications for it. And when you do have the capital gains, especially when you go from a rental property back to your principal residence, there is capital gains implications at that point. So even though you didn't sell the property, you owe tax to the government, they will ask you to pay the capital gains for that at that point in time. And it's also important